I'll go inside. Thank you. Yes, I made it.
Getting used to it, we started out.
We haven't covered out really, have you missed us?
Well, nearly. So what's it?
Yeah, just take time for my
Very tasty.
Have you given up getting something?
We haven't got any money.
No, but what time did they close then?
Oh, I don't know. They'll come back here anyway.
Oh, right.
Straight back to the bus stop. There's always 4 pounds.
No, it used to be 3.
There's no need for that.
They just see that once they've just come through.
It's really tender. You've got some scissors inside, haven't you?
Oh, no, yes. Let's not talk about
I'm going to get rid of that bit. Yeah, I think I'll go
Nice place to live.
and see if we can stop this what is ingredients. Just comes. What was that all the time?
You balance.
You balance, that's enough.
Coming into view shortly over to the right is the chairlift, which takes passengers down to the beach at Alum Bay. Weather permitting, there is sometimes a trip around the bay in a small boat which will take you all the way out to the Needles. This name came from Needle Rock, a 120 feet high column of rock which was also known as Lot's Wife. This column fell into the sea during a storm in 1764, the stump of which can still be seen at low tide. From then on, the site was known as the Needles. The Needles Lighthouse was built in the 1850s and is still operational today, although it is now unmanned, for it became fully automated in 1994. On a clear day you can see the whole way along the south coast from Southampton to Bournemouth there in the distance. Across the Solent you can see the estuary that leads into Lymington Harbour and the flat plain of the New Forest, which still covers some 92,000 acres. We will soon be approaching the Needles Old Battery, which was originally built in 1863 to protect against invasion by the French. Palmerston's Follies is the name given to fortifications built during the 19th century by Lord Palmerston's government to protect southern England from attacks by the French. West Wight was particularly well defended, with Fort Redoubt at Freshwater Bay, the Needles Battery, Hatherwood Battery overlooking Alum Bay, Fort Warden at Totland, Cliff End Battery and Fort Albert at Colwell, and Fort Victoria west of Yarmouth. The military headquarters were at Golden Hill Fort, and close by at Salmon Hill was the military hospital. None of the forts fired a shot in anger until World War I, hence the name Palmerston's Follies. Here at the old battery, visitors are able to access a 60-metre tunnel cut through the chalk, which leads to a searchlight emplacement and gives an up-close view of the Needles Rocks. Two of the original gun barrels are on display in the parade ground, and there are a number of exhibitions, including one by comic book artist Jeff Campion, who used to draw for the Eagle and Lion comics. The surrounding headland, encompassing both the old and new batteries, are now in the care of the National Trust. The Needles New Battery was built in 1893, after more powerful guns were deployed, a move prompted by concerns that subsidence and concussion from the larger guns at the old battery would cause the cliffs to collapse and bring everything tumbling into the sea. The new battery and headland was the site of secret rocket tests in Britain's race for space. The Black Knight and Black Arrow rockets were tested here before being taken out to Woomera in Australia for launching. Black Arrow 3 launched Prospero in October 1971, and it remains the only British satellite ever to be launched by a British rocket. Although no longer transmitting, it still passes overhead twice a day. The underground room of the Needles New Battery houses an exhibition about the history of this rocket test site, including some film footage. This is free to enter, and there is also a small refreshment kiosk. As we near the end of our journey to the Needles, you will see the old Postcard Cottages now available from the National Trust for holiday lettings. You will also notice the Coast Guard Lookout Tower, nowadays only manned at weekends and during busy periods of waterborne activities, such as the Round the Island race and Cows Week. If you follow the road round the corner, the remains of the rocket testing gantries can be found. At this point, we are about 120 metres or 400 feet above sea level. Buses depart every 30 minutes from here at 25 past and 5 minutes to each hour. The last bus leaving at 5:25.
One way down to there. Well, we're trying to get the stop. You said he didn't stop.
That's when I've got my uses. It's not one of the big trees. It's called Evans. Some of them are big, but it's even another little bit. Really was about 8.
I'm glad you were telling me that.
Pub where we had the beer last night. See about
Visibility permitting, if you look straight ahead of the bus, it is possible to see the top of the Spinnaker Tower in Portsmouth. On the spit opposite, and again relying on good visibility, you will see Hearst Castle, which was completed in 1544 as one of a chain of coastal fortresses. In a few moments' time, we will be at the stop for the Needles Old Battery, the entrance to which can be found at the end of the slip road to the left of the bus stop.
it's not bad. Whilst I was thinking of missing the stop, clearly we get the way back.
I guess the doors are nice, so it's a bit ferocious. If it looks worthwhile.
It's lovely. It's so high up and of course safe.
You get that film straight round in your front. I don't Yes, that's like that, that's right.
I wonder what that could look like if it was Who's an animal?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Could
it's
look
like a narrow shark. Big, pointy.
the saw nose. Yeah, it was a she called it saw.
Are they called a knot?
Hearst Castle was one of the most advanced of the artillery fortresses built by Henry VIII. It was used as a prison for eminent 17th century captives and later strengthened during the 19th and 20th centuries. Its situation at the narrow entrance to the Solent, where the ebb and flow of the tides create strong currents, put would-be invaders at its mercy. After his incarceration in Carisbrooke Castle here on the island, Charles I was imprisoned in Hearst Castle in 1648 before being taken to London for his trial and execution. During World War II, Hearst was manned with coastal gun batteries and searchlights. Opposite Hearst Castle on the shore of the island you can see Fort Albert, which was built in 1856 and formed another part of the 19th century defence system against the French. Still largely intact, it has been in part converted to luxury accommodation. This was one of the test sites for the Brennan torpedo, an ingenious wire-guided weapon from the early part of the 20th century. Down to your left is a wonderful view of the celebrated coloured sands of Alum Bay. These sands first appeared on record in 1790, and the Victorians were the first to visit in large numbers to view both the natural coloured sand cliffs and the stunning landscape. The Victorians were also the first to fill various shaped glass bottles with the natural sand and to create sand pictures. Naturally occurring cliff falls provide the source for the sand, which is professionally collected, thus the number of available colours can vary from year to year. The cliffs are made up of the mineral quartz, and the 21 different colours that are visible are all tinted by varying amounts of minerals that are naturally present. Use was also made of the white sand, which was quarried, stored at Yarmouth and taken by schooner to Runcorn to make plate glass. It was also taken to porcelain factories in London, Bristol, Worcester and the West Indies before the trade ceased in 1851 in favour of French sand. There was once a pier at Alum Bay, built in 1873 and later wrecked in a storm and finally demolished in 1926. In its heyday, Victorian paddle steamers would have landed passengers there. In a few moments we will once again arrive at the Needles Park, where we will stop briefly before continuing our journey back towards Totland and Yarmouth.
They look alright, but the wind doesn't cut down that way.
Must be 7-9, they can't. They're not supposed to do that, are they?
She's much getting the local drivers now.
Oh, talking about this scene. And, no, what I've read, John, the gardener, knows that I'm at one of these. And I was talking to him at the gate, and then I suddenly, I don't know what it was, I had to run across the path. And we said, around here. He said, yeah, you were from
High over to your right, you can see the Tennyson Monument, celebrating the achievements of a notable local resident and now in the care of the National Trust. Often overlooked, however, is another famous native of freshwater, Robert Hooke. Born in 1635, from poor family and disabled himself, he was nonetheless the most advanced scientist of his age, and many modern machines are the result of his ideas. Among Robert Hooke's inventions were the Irish diaphragm in a camera and the universal joint in a motor vehicle. He was also the originator of the word cell in biology. Another of his inventions continues to work as effectively as ever in the 21st century, for Robert Hooke was the inventor of the watch spring. The next stop is for Totland, the name Totland meaning protruding, prominent land. The road on the left, opposite the War Memorial, will take you down to the beach at Totland Bay, where a coastal footpath connects this with Colwell Bay.
You park a bit better, wouldn't you?
she went and started to run. What's the name for there? There's a place up there. She looks out for places.
At the far end of Colwell Common on your left is the stop for Colwell Bay. Colwell Bay is the ideal place for those seeking the quieter side of the seaside. The water here is shallow and warm, making it perfect for swimming. The beach itself is sandy and has a promenade from which visitors can take a relaxing walk to Totland. Over to your right, and now hidden from view, is what remains of Golden Hill Fort. A six-sided structure, Golden Hill was a land rather than sea defence fort and acted as a barracks for the gunners manning the nearby batteries. Whilst operational, the area was kept clear of vegetation to allow views out towards the Solent. Constructed between 1863 and 1868, this remarkable listed landmark is now being transformed into a development of 18 luxury apartments. Farther along the road to your right, you will notice an old church which has now been converted to a private residence. If island legend is to be believed, then the owners are not alone, for the church is widely reported to be home to a poltergeist. We will soon be approaching the stop for Fort Victoria, which is situated approximately half a mile down the lane from the bus stop. Fort Victoria was completed in 1855 to complement Hearst Castle as defence forts against the threat of French invasion. By 1890 it was used as a mine depot by the Royal Engineers, and during both World Wars the fort again formed part of the island's defence system. In 1970 it was reduced to its present level and is now a country park and local information centre. At this point the Solent is at its narrowest, being only some 1,200 metres across. Fort Victoria now houses a number of visitor attractions, including an aquarium, a planetarium and a model railway.
Could have left you on.
Probably end up on that one.
Yeah,
Probably end up on that
yeah,
one.
but it says
Yeah,
it must be. So,
Mum was going to local place.
must be something with a big place there. Yeah, so loads of different same
stop, these two
It
white
was,
stoppers.
we went on, what was it?
Yarmouth Castle was the last coastal fort built by Henry VIII. When Henry broke away from the Catholic Church, he ordered a series of artillery forts to be built all along the south coast to protect the country from the threat of invasion from Catholic France and Spain. However, it was not seen necessary to build a fort at Yarmouth. This opinion changed in 1545 when a French force sailed into the Solent and landed on the Isle of Wight, safe from the guns and forts on the mainland. The local militia defeated the French, but a weakness in the island's defences had been revealed and a castle was soon being constructed at Yarmouth. The fort never saw action, but was garrisoned right up until 1885. The town saw many developments in the Victorian era, including the construction of the bridge across the River Yar and the building of the pier, which was completed in 1876. As we approach Yarmouth bus station and the end of our journey, we would like to thank you for travelling on the Southern Vectus Needles Breezer. We hope you enjoy the rest of your stay on the island and wish you a safe and pleasant onward journey.
Oh, yes.